The real names have been hidden to preserve the identity of the person involved in this story. Therefore, we will call our character Michael. Michael seemed like just another face lost among the cold streets of a city that never stops. With a disheveled beard, torn clothes, and eyes sunken with exhaustion, he walked slowly with his supermarket cart full of junk and memories. For those who looked at him from the outside, he was just another homeless person, invisible to the rush of the world. But inside, there was something different, something that almost no one saw. Behind that tired look, there was a man with a vision. And no, it wasn't a metaphor. Michael carried a dream that he had nurtured for exactly 15 years, every day, without fail. While many called him crazy, he visualized. While sleeping under bridges, he would mentalize. And even when hunger squeezed his stomach and the rain wet his bones, he still believed. Before everything fell apart, Michael had an ordinary life. He worked as a stock boy in a supermarket, lived in a small rented apartment, and led an average existence like so many others. But within him, there was always a burning desire to prove that the world was moldable, that reality could be rewritten. From a young age, he devoured books on quantum physics, spirituality, vibration, and the power of the mind. While his friends had fun, Michael spent entire nights reading about Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, and the universal laws of the universe. The problem is that the external world does not forgive those who dream big without structure. A health problem, a loan he couldn't repay, and a painful breakup. In less than a year, Michael lost everything. Job, home, family. And it was like that, without prior warning, that he ended up on the streets. But contrary to what was expected, he did not lose his faith. And this is where this story starts to get different from any other. For 15 years, every day, Michael did the same thing. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and saw himself as a millionaire. He could smell the leather on the seats of the luxury car, hear the sound of the sea hitting the rocks of the house of his dreams, and see in detail the signing of the contract for the company that would one day be his. All of this sitting on the ground, among pigeons and trash. But the strangest thing? It's just that he never, at any time, doubted that it would happen. And that made all the difference. Now tell me, have you ever had the feeling of being trapped in an endless cycle? To fight, to try, and still, it seems like nothing changes? Maybe Michael's story isn't as far from yours as it seems. If you feel like you've done everything, but you're still stuck in the same place, write here in the comments. I believe too, even when everything falls apart. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what happened to Michael will shake your soul. And if this story has touched you this far, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. You can't imagine what's yet to come. Michael lived on the streets of Chicago for nearly a decade and a half. The city, with its merciless winters and sweltering summers, was both his prison and his vibrational training ground. He took shelter wherever he could, in subway stations, staircases of abandoned buildings, park benches. And yet, every night, before falling asleep in the biting cold or under the constant hum of the city, he performed the same silent ritual. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and saw something completely different. In his mind, Michael wasn't there. He was in a suit, walking through the luxurious corridors of a building with panoramic views. He shook hands with business people, heard his name called at award shows. He saw himself on stage, inspiring crowds. And with each viewing, he put real emotion. I felt the heat of the lights on my face, the weight of the microphone in my hand, the vibration of the audience. All this without a penny in your pocket. The people around him saw him as just another person without direction. A broke man who had perhaps lost his mind. Some even mocked. Others just walked past him, looking away. But what no one knew was that Michael carried within him a conviction that could not be destroyed. Not even because of hunger. Not even out of contempt. Not even because of the crushing loneliness of silent dawns. For years, he mentally wrote the script for his future life. All the details, the conversations, the scenarios, the smells, the sounds, everything vibrationally aligned with what he believed would one day be his. And even when the universe seemed to return only more proof that he was wrong, Michael continued. There were days when he didn't eat anything. Days when your body shook, not just from the cold, but from physical exhaustion. Still, even with his mind weakened by pain, he persisted. Visualized. I was grateful for what I didn't yet have, as if I already had it. He spoke to the universe in silence, sometimes even loudly, scaring anyone passing by. But for him, everything made sense. It was as if he was training a frequency, preparing the invisible field of reality. He learned to ignore the world around him, not reacting to chaos, misery, lack, because he knew, or rather, felt, that what was before his eyes was not the final truth. It was just the delayed reflection of an old vibration. And if he wanted to change the reflection, he needed to change the vibration first. Reality, he said, was like a broken mirror that still reflected his past version. But the new reflection was already coming. He just needed to keep looking within. And so, for 15 long years, Michael planted the same seed every day. Even when everything said no. Even when no one saw. Even when he himself almost couldn't continue anymore. But the universe listens. And when you hear clearly, you respond. And that's when everything started to change. And you? Have you ever had a dream that was so real inside you, but seemed impossible on the outside? Have you ever felt like you were carrying something big, even immense, but that no one around you could see? As if it were just you against the world. Just you believing in something that no one else understood. Maybe it even started with full force, full of hope, but over time, everything got heavier. The accounts don't close, the doors don't open, people disappear. And suddenly, you start to doubt. Is it really worth continuing? Michael knew that feeling well. He lived this every day for 15 years. And the scary thing is that he never had any concrete proof that his faith was working. Nothing. No clear signs, no open miracles. Just silence. Just the repetition of days. Just reality screaming, give up. And yet, he continued. Because inside it, there was something that perhaps you also felt at some point. That invisible certainty. That silent spark that says there is more. That your life can't be just that. That there is something bigger waiting for you. Even if everything around you says otherwise. Have you ever felt like you're in some kind of loop? As if you were experiencing the same situations, the same fears, the same limits, just with different faces and places? And no matter how much you change on the outside, your job, your partner, your lifestyle, on the inside, it seems like the pain remains the same. As if there was an invisible mirror reflecting your deepest thoughts, your most hidden feelings. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. Because you start to think that the problem is in the world, in the circumstances, in others. But what if it's something vibrational? Something that starts within? Michael understood this before everything changed. And maybe, without realizing it, you're at the same point he was. That moment when it seems like nothing is happening, but inside, everything is boiling. Because before reality changes, you change. First internally, first in vibration, in thoughts, in the way you feel and talk about yourself. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it's real. So think with me. How many times have you sabotaged yourself because you thought it wasn't the time? Or because it seemed too difficult? How many times have you given up one step away from the turnaround, just because the reflection hadn't changed yet? Maybe your body is tired, your mind is exhausted, but your spirit still believes, still calls. What if it's this calling that's bringing you here? Michael was no different from you. He just decided not to stop. He decided to believe in the invisible long enough until the visible had to bow. And now, perhaps, it is your turn to look within and remember what you came to manifest. Because in the next instant, everything started to move. And this is where it all starts to make sense. Because what Michael experienced was not just resistance or blind optimism. What he did, consciously or not, was align himself with one of the most powerful laws in the universe, the law of vibration. This law says that everything is energy. Everything vibrates. Everything, without exception, is in constant movement, including your thoughts, emotions, words, and most importantly, your most intimate feelings. Reality does not respond to what you want with words, nor to what you say you want. It responds to the frequency you emit when no one is looking. And Michael, even though he had absolutely nothing, vibrated as if he had everything. Most people think that the law of attraction begins and ends with desire. All you have to do is ask the universe, write it in a notebook, make a dream board, and that's it. But that's not how reality bends. Desire is just the starting point. What really makes the wheel turn is how you feel every day about what you want. If your request vibrates scarcity, fear, rush, or desperation, that's what you attract back. Michael didn't ask like someone desperate. He vibrated like who he already was. like someone who already had it. And that difference changes everything. For years, Michael's vibe was constant. Even sleeping on the floor, even being ignored, even when everything seemed to say he was wrong, he didn't waver. And vibration, when held steady long enough, creates a crack in the density of reality. It's like screaming inside a canyon for years, with the same intensity, with the same faith, and one day, the echo finally returns, thunderous, impossible to ignore. That's the magic behind true manifestation. It doesn't happen when everything is fine. It happens when you decide that what you feel is more important than what you see. And the universe, which responds not to words, but to vibrational states, begins to reconfigure everything around you to align with what you are holding within. It doesn't matter the external scenario. Reality always listens to what is being emitted behind the fear, behind the words, behind the effort. Michael understood this without needing expensive books or mentoring courses. He lived it. He was living proof that sustained frequency shapes matter. And when the vibration becomes unwavering, even when the world seems still, the quantum field begins to work. Invisible, imperceptible, but relentless. Because the universe does not ignore a vibration that does not waver. He just watches. And when he realizes that you're not going to change anymore, he's forced to change for you. And that's exactly what started to happen. Silently. First in the small, almost imperceptible details. But once the field was activated, there was no going back. When change arrived, it was like a silent gale. Nobody expected it. Not even Michael could predict the details, but he already felt that something was about to happen. And it was on one of those ordinary days, with gray skies and hurried footsteps around, that everything began to move visibly. He was sitting in the same corner as always, with an old drawing board where he was drawing faces, landscapes, symbols, and even sketches of buildings that he claimed to one day build. A man passed by, looked quickly, and continued walking. But a few steps later, it came back. This man was an editor of an independent magazine, passionate about marginal art, the kind that carries a raw soul. He saw in Michael something that most didn't see, a sparkle in his eyes, a firm line in his hands, a rare presence. And right there, sitting on the sidewalk, he asked if he could buy one of the drawings. Michael didn't hesitate, not for the money, but because, deep down, he knew there was more to this moment than it seemed. It was a sign. It was an answer. From then on, what seemed impossible began to take shape. The editor not only bought other drawings, but also published an article about them. Before long, people started looking for him. A social project invited him to tell his story. And for the first time in years, he stood on a stage. The clothes were still simple, the shoes were borrowed, but their energy was huge. He talked about faith, about visualization, about vibrational resistance. People cried. They got emotional. And a woman in the audience, without saying anything that day, returned 2 weeks later with a proposal: finance a small book with Michael's drawings and reflections. The book spread. He was invited to interviews, events, and transformation projects. Today, Michael is a published author, international speaker, and vibrational mentor. He lives in a large house, surrounded by trees, where he meditates every morning. But when asked what really made all this happen, he doesn't talk about luck. Not even from the editor. Not even from the book. He always says, "Nothing changed out there, until I really believed in here." And this is the turning point that few can see in time. Because most people think that a miracle happens when something magical falls from the sky. But with Michael, it wasn't like that. He did not escape misery. He was not rescued. He didn't wait for the world to change. He vibrated a new world until the old one could no longer hold it. His vibration became so strong, so stable, so coherent, that reality had to give way. And he gave in, not like movie magic, but as a natural response to a new frequency. He didn't run away from poverty. He did not win by force. He was not saved by chance. He simply became, internally, the version that already existed vibrationally, and just hoped he believed it enough to make it inevitable. So tell me, what are you choosing to vibrate from now on? What is the vision that still lives within you, even if no one else can see it? Write a word here in the comments that represents this new state. Could it be faith, abundance, freedom, or any other that connects with what your soul already knows is possible? When you write, you anchor, you shape the vibration. And if this story touched you in some way, If something inside you awakened or recognized a mirror, leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of deep stuff coming, and each new piece of content could be exactly what your frequency has been waiting for. In the next episode, you will learn about the case of a woman who delivered exactly what she asked for, her dream home. But what happened next was completely unexpected, because even with everything perfect on the outside, inside, it still vibrated with scarcity. And that changed everything. See you there.